Hey to all the spooks out there. Welcome back to another episode of Spine Chilling Chats, where every Wednesday we dig up the darkest corners of true crime, history, folklore, and the supernatural. I'm Ange.
And I'm Anna.
Tonight we're continuing our journey through the dark and complicated history of Georgia with our second episode covering Georgia this month. This case takes us back to Atlanta in 1913, when the brutal murder of a young girl sent shockwaves through the city and far beyond. What followed was more than a search for justice. It became a perfect storm of fear, power, media frenzy, and deeply rooted prejudice. The aftermath would divide communities, ignite long lasting hatred, and leave scars that are still felt over a century later. Trigger warning: this episode contains discussions of the sexual abuse of a child, the murder of a child, and hate crimes and anti-Semitism directed at Jewish people. Please take care while listening and step away if you need to. Do you need to step away?
I do not. I'm good.
Okay. All right, folks. Tonight we're telling the story of Mary Phagan, her life, the events surrounding her death, and the dangerous consequences that followed. This isn't just a true crime case, it's a sobering look at how injustice, bias, and mob mentality can change history forever. Bias, mob mentality. There's nothing like that going on right now.
Oh, no, not at all. And this was back when?
1913.
Oh, yeah.
Not a whole lot has changed.
Nope.
So dim the lights, take a deep breath, and join us as we unravel one of Georgia's most haunting and controversial stories. Mary Phagan was born on June 1st, 1899, to a family of Georgia tenant farmers. So tenant farmers means like they rent the land
Okay.
off of somebody who
Somebody
owns a
else.
bunch of
Okay.
land. Or at least that's what I assume it. I didn't Google it. That's just what I assume
Oh,
being tenant would mean.
all right. I'm going to look it up, though.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Her father passed away before she ever had a chance to know him. Not long after Mary's birth, her mother, Frances Phagan, I'm right?
A person who farms rented land.
Look at me knowing
I
stuff.
know.
Not long after Mary's birth, her mother, Frances Phagan, brought the family back to Marietta, Georgia, hoping to rebuild their lives there. Over the next several years, the family moved again, this time to East Point, just southwest of Atlanta, where Frances ran a boarding house to support her children. Like many working class kids of the era, Mary's childhood was cut short. By the age of 10, she left school to take on part-time work in a textile mill, helping contribute to the family's income. That's really sad.
Yeah.
10 and you got to drop out of school and start working?
And that's not an easy job.
No.
You know, it's not like she was working at a hardware store or just being a cashier somewhere. Like, she was getting dirty.
Yeah, textile mill.
Mhm.
In 1912, Frances remarried and the family relocated into Atlanta proper. That spring, Mary found work at the National Pencil Company, earning 10 cents an hour for long, grueling weeks that stretched to 55 hours. Could you imagine that?
I don't like how much I get paid now.
I don't know what 10 cents was back then in 1913, or 1912, is when she started there. But in a 10-year-old working 55 hours a week?
Instead of going to school. That's really sad.
I mean, I work 40 hours a week and I feel like that's too much.
Right.
I can't
I'm
imagine.
exhausted.
And I'm an adult. I'm like, this poor child. Her job involved operating a machine that fitted rubber erasers into the metal ends of pencils, a tedious task made even harder by her young age. Mary worked just down the hall from the company's main office, a detail that would later become tragically significant. On April 21st, 1913, Mary Phagan was temporarily laid off of work due to a shortage of materials at the factory. 5 days later, around noon on April 26th, she returned to the building to collect her final paycheck. 5 days later, around noon on April 26th, she returned to the building to collect her final paycheck from Mr. Frank before heading to the parade. In the early hours of the following morning, just before 3 o'clock a.m., the factory's night watchman, Newt Lee, which I think is so funny that someone's actually named Newt. So I thought it was so like odd of a name in Fantastic Beasts, somewhere to find them. Newt Scamander. Like who would name their child Newt?
Yeah.
Like off of a amphibian? Is that what they are?
Yes. Mute.
But his name is Newt Lee. Went down to the basement to use the restroom. As he was leaving, he noticed something near the back of the basement, close to the incinerator. It was there that he discovered Mary Phagan's body. Newt immediately alerted the police. Mary had suffered extensive injuries. Her clothing was a mess, with her skirt pushed up and a torn strip from her petticoat wrapped tightly around her neck. Her face showed signs of violence, marked by scratches and discoloration, and her head bore clear evidence of blunt force trauma. A length of wrapping cord, around 7 feet long and a quarter-inch thick, had been looped around her neck so tightly that it cut into her skin a quarter-inch deep.
That's crazy. You have to be one fucked up, angry person.
To do that to a little girl, confirming that she had been strangled. Her undergarments, though still partially in place, were torn and blood-stained. So she was sexually assaulted as well.
Yeah.
Ashes and dirt covered her body, which initially led officers to believe a struggle had taken place on the basement floor. Investigators also examined the rear of the basement, where a service ramp led to a sliding door opening to the alley. Police determined that the door had been tampered with, allowing it to be opened without a key. Bloodied fingerprints were later found on the door, along with a metal pipe believed to have been used to force it open. However, the investigation quickly ran into problems. Evidence at the scene was mishandled, most notably a visible trail in the dirt that police believed showed where Mary's body had been dragged. That area was trampled by investigators, and the footprints were never identified or preserved. So they're just walking all over, not
If
giving a
you
fuck.
have a crime scene and you know you have a crime scene, you should have told them, like, be careful.
Yeah. Well, you would think it'd be common sense. Yeah, I know it's 1913.
But you still have to learn things and you still go to school for these things. Like, you still have to look out for these things. Like, it's common sense.
You would think.
You have a dead body. You don't just go traipsing through the fucking crime scene.
Yeah. Near Mary's head, police discovered two handwritten notes in a pile of trash. These would later be referred to as the murder notes. Both attempted to place blame on a long, tall black man, and one referenced what appeared to be the night watchman. When the notes were read aloud, Newt Lee reportedly responded that it seemed someone was trying to frame him. Newt was arrested later that morning. Investigators cited the notes, along with his apparent familiarity with the body. He had identified the victim as white, while officers, due to the darkness and grime in the basement, had initially been unsure of her race. So that's how dark and like dirty, and
Wow.
she had ashes and stuff
All
on
over, yeah.
her. So they couldn't tell that she was a little white girl. Police also believed a trail leading back toward the elevator suggested the body had been moved, and they suspected Newt was responsible.
And he's the one that found her. He's
Uh
the one that went in the basement to use the bathroom.
huh.
Okay.
Along with Newt Lee, police also detained one of Mary Phagan's friends in connection with the crime. As the investigation continued, authorities slowly began to rule both individuals out as suspects. By the following Monday, detectives shifted their theory, suggesting that the murder may not have occurred in the basement at all, but instead on the second floor of the factory. This idea was based on physical evidence they claimed to have found there, including strands of hair on the lathe and stains on the floor that were believed to be blood. The second floor also housed the office of the factory superintendent. At the center of this new focus was Leo Frank. Leo Max Frank was born on April 17th, 1884, in Curo, Texas, to Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
Just kidding.
No, I wasn't.
He's not Rudolph the Red
He's
Nose.
oh. To Rudolph Frank and Rachel Ray Jacobs, both of whom came from German Jewish families. When Leo was just a few months old, the family relocated to Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. I can't do it.
I can't either. I mean, my fucking Irish accent
Real
comes out
accent.
Southern, so you can't count on me for anything.
Where he would grow up and attend public school. Leo was a strong student and graduated from the Pratt Institute in 1902 before continuing his education at Cornell University. So that's pretty prestigious there,
Yeah.
where he studied mechanical engineering.
Didn't one of the other ones go to Cornell?
I feel like
We just talked about it. Maybe I was watching one of my shows and
that's
that's
to
what
me.
yeah, Cornell. It just feels familiar.
While at Cornell, he participated in a debate club, showing an early interest in discussion and public speaking. He enjoyed the leisure activities of the upper class like tennis, chess, and bridge. He also frequented the opera. Yeah, he's hoity toity. After earning his degree in 1906, Leo worked briefly in technical roles, including drafting and engineering testing. In the fall of 1907, Leo traveled to Atlanta at the request of his uncle, Moses Frank, to meet with investors connected to the National Pencil Company, a factory in which his uncle held significant financial interest. After accepting the position, Leo spent several months in Germany training at a major pencil manufacturing facility.
This
Really?
is some serious
Really
business.
going all the way to Germany to learn how to make a fucking pencil?
Just 1907, just whittle it away.
Yeah, seriously. Like, how complicated is this?
Serious business. pencil making.
Training at well, maybe they used to be a number one pencil. Now they're number two
Yeah.
after the murder. It's not funny.
It's
A
not.
little girl died, but
Right.
and a man died.
Right.
Eventually, we'll learn about that.
But
Spoiler alert.
but it's a little bit funny.
It's a little bit funny. Oh,
We're assholes.
training. That's okay because we like each other.
Right.
Training at a major pencil manufacturing facility to learn the industry firsthand. He returned to the United States in mid 1908 and began work at the National Pencil Company that August. His northern upbringing, industrialist ways, and mannerisms made many in the city, both Jewish and non-Jewish, feel uneasy. Because he's down south and here comes this snooty.
Is he white?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's a Jewish German man.
Okay.
Leo quickly rose through the ranks and was promoted to factory superintendent within weeks of starting, earning a monthly salary along with a share of the company's profits. Not long after settling in Atlanta, Leo met Lucille Selig, a member of a well established Jewish family whose roots in the city went back generations. The couple married in November of 1910, and Leo later described their life together as a happy one. By 1912, he had become deeply involved in Atlanta's Jewish community and was elected president of the local chapter of the B'nai B'rith, a Jewish fraternal organization. At the time, Atlanta was home to the largest Jewish population in the southern United States, which is kind of surprising. Like, I wonder why they picked Atlanta.
Because Atlanta's fucking awesome.
I understand that, but
I don't know.
all the Jewish people moved there.
Yeah. Why did I don't even remember who it was, but why did like all the uh Hispanics choose Chicago?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like a lot of them went there. And it's like,
Why?
yeah. And what was so special about that place
That's where you chose.
that's where you went.
I don't know. I sure would have picked somewhere else.
I want to live in Atlanta, Georgia, so I would have picked Atlanta, but I'm not Jewish.
You're not.
No,
You're
surprise,
You're not
surprise.
a Jewish Puerto Rican.
No. No. I know lots of people think I am, but I'm not.
The Franks were part of a cultured, philanthropic circle that valued education and the arts. Still, in an era marked by social division, Leo's northern upbringing and Jewish identity set him apart in the deeply traditional culture of the South, differences that would later be viewed with suspicion by some. On Monday, April 28th, Leo Frank, accompanied by his attorney, Luther Roser, provided police with a written statement outlining his activities from the previous Saturday. In it, Leo said that Mary Phagan had been in his office briefly between 12:05 and 12:10 p.m. He stated that night watchman Newt Lee arrived in the factory around 4 p.m., but was told to return later, and that Leo encountered former employee James Gant around 6 p.m., just as Leo was leaving and Newt Lee was arriving. Leo also addressed irregularities on Newt's time card from early Sunday morning. Newt was required to clock in every 30 minutes, and several entries were missing. Details Leo said he had overlooked when initially speaking with police.
How
Why would you have to clock
tedious
in?
is that to clock in every half hour to stop what I'm doing to fucking clock in?
Yeah.
And it's old time stuff. So you have to walk across.
And then, yeah,
Yeah. Like that's dumb.
I guess they want to make sure they're not sleeping on the job
Maybe.
since
But
it's a night watchman.
yeah. But still, like,
Yeah.
let me sleep.
At Rosser's insistence, Leo allowed officers to examine his body to show he had no cuts or injuries. Police reported finding no blood on the suit Leo claimed to have worn that day, nor on any of the laundry at his home. Following this, Leo met with his assistant, N.V. Darley, and Harry Scott of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, which Leo hired in hopes of uncovering evidence and clearing his name. The Pinkertons pursued a wide range of leads, including crime scene analysis and allegations concerning Leo's conduct. They were required to share all findings with the police, even information that reflected poorly on Leo. What he did not know was that Harry Scott had close personal ties with law enforcement, including a friendship with Detective John Black, who believed Leo was guilty from the beginning. So he's paying these people to help him out, but they're in cahoots with the police.
Yeah. I mean, that's shitty, but like, if more than one person thinks that something's got to give.
On Tuesday, April 29th, Detective Black searched Newt Lee's residence and discovered a blood-stained shirt in a burn barrel. The blood was smeared high under the arms, and the shirt appeared unworn. leading police to suspect it had been planted.
Okay.
Because Leo had appeared nervous during questioning, investigators concluded that he may have been responsible for staging the evidence. Later that morning, around 11:30 a.m., Leo was arrested at the factory. According to historian Steve Oney, no single piece of evidence convinced police of Leo's guilt. Instead, a series of suspicions and unresolved concerns gradually shifted the opinion against him.
He seems nervous and suspicious, and they think that because he was nervous, he planted the evidence in his own fucking burn barrel?
No,
Oh,
no, they're saying Leo Frank
yeah.
planted that evidence on Newt.
Oh, okay, okay,
That
okay.
was in Newt's house.
Okay.
The bloody shirt and the burn barrel.
Okay. And he was nervous because they thought he would get found out.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what they think.
Okay.
These included the dismissal of reports that Mary had been seen alive after leaving the factory, making Leo the last confirmed person to say he saw her.
Dun, dun, dun.
The release of earlier suspects, Leo's decision to hire private detectives, and a changing interpretation of Newt Lee's role, police began to believe Newt had acted as an accomplice and that Leo was attempting to place blame on him. While both men were in custody, police arranged a confrontation between the two men. Accounts of what occurred varied, but investigators interpreted the interaction as further evidence against Leo. On Wednesday, April 30th, a coroner's inquest was held. Leo Frank again testified about his whereabouts, and other witnesses offered statements that partially supported his timeline. The young man claimed Mary had spoken negatively about Leo, and several former employees described what they believed to be flirtatious or inappropriate behavior toward women. Despite this, detectives acknowledged that they still lacked conclusive evidence explaining the crime. Both men were ordered to remain in custody. In May, renowned detective William J. Burns traveled to Atlanta to assist with the investigation. However, the Burns agency withdrew from the case later that month. One of his detectives publicly stated that the agency had come to investigate a murder, not to become entangled in politics. So there's a lot of kind of disregarding real evidence and
Right.
kind of just going off of your bias.
Which I'm sure still happens in some departments
Oh,
today.
I'm sure.
So again, nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
We're not knocking the police. Don't take it that way. I'm just,
I mean, a little bit.
yeah,
A little bit.
but not me, Rachel, tell him it's not me. No, but like we've watched enough shows to know.
Yeah. But it's not all police.
No.
There's just some that are corrupt. There are some that are lazy, and there's some that are just plain old stupid.
Mm-hmm. So
The agency reportedly grew. The agency reportedly grew disillusioned as the case became increasingly influenced by public pressure, social tensions, and widespread claims that Leo's wealth and Jewish identity allowed him special treatment from authorities. The prosecution's case relied heavily on the testimony of Jim Conley, the factory's janitor, a figure many historians and researchers later questioned and, in some cases, suspected far more deeply than authorities did at the time.
they think Leo is a suspect. How are they treating him
Better.
and giving him special treatment? Like
Yeah.
they still think he did.
Yeah,
he's
he's still
that's not special
in
treatment.
custody right now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not just walking around free.
I don't understand how that's special treatment, but okay.
Police first detained Jim on May 1st after he was seen washing reddish stains from a blue work shirt. Investigators examined the garment, but ultimately accepted his explanation that the stains were rust, not blood, and returned it to him. Despite this, Jim remained in custody. 2 weeks later, he gave his first formal statement, claiming that on the day of the murder, he had spent his time drinking, gambling, and moving between saloons. That account soon raised doubts. A witness reported seeing a black man wearing dark blue clothing and a hat inside the factory lobby on the day Mary Phagan was killed. Investigators also discovered that Jim could read and write, contradicting earlier assumptions that he was illiterate.
Yeah.
His spelling patterns closely resembled those found in the handwritten notes discovered near Mary's body.
Okay.
Curious.
Mm-hmm.
Under further questioning, Jim admitted on May 24th that he had written the notes, stating that he had done so at Leo's direction.
But again, Leo's getting special treatment.
Yep. When police tested his spelling, particularly his rendering of night watchman as night witch, that's pretty, specific.
Mm-hmm.
They became convinced Jim was indeed the author of the notes. However, they remained skeptical of the broader story, which suggested advanced planning and a direct confession involving Leo. In the second affidavit, Jim acknowledged that he had lied about a meeting he claimed occurred the day before the murder. He now said that he encountered Leo on the street the day of the murder and followed him back to the factory. According to this version, Leo instructed Jim to hide in a wardrobe while two women visited his office, dictated the notes, gave him cigarettes, and then sent him away. Jim claimed he spent the rest of the evening drinking and attending a movie and said he did not learn about Mary's death until he returned to work on Monday. Police accepted his revised account, and Atlanta newspapers gave it prominent coverage. However, several officials from the National Pencil Company publicly disagreed, suggesting that Jim Conley may have entered the factory intending to rob another employee and instead encountered Mary. Investigators largely dismissed this theory, though they struggled to explain why Mary's purse, which witnesses said she carried that day, was never recovered. They were also troubled by Jim's claim that he wrote the notes without acknowledging a crime had already occurred. In an attempt to resolve lingering doubts, police tried to arrange a face to face meeting between Leo and Jim on May 28th. Leo declined to participate without his attorney present, which is smart, who was unavailable at the time. Police publicly framed this refusal as suspicious, and the meeting never happened.
That's their fault then.
Yeah.
Like, he has every right to have a counselor.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to give it to him, then that's on you.
Yeah, that's not suspicious.
You drop the ball.
Everybody should be in the presence of their attorney if they're being accused of something like this.
And
he's an educated man. Okay.
And he probably had his attorney and they just didn't question him. They didn't follow up.
Well, it said that his attorney wasn't available at the time.
Oh, yeah. But still.
So instead of just rescheduling. Yeah. It's not like they're going anywhere. The following day, May 29th, Jim underwent several hours of additional questioning and produced yet another affidavit. This time, he claimed Leo told him that a girl had fallen and struck her head. Jim said the two transported the body to the basement using the elevator, returned to the office where the notes were dictated, and that Jim then hid in the wardrobe once more. He also alleged that Leo gave him $200 only to take it back, promising to settle matters later. Jim stated that he had withheld the truth earlier because he believed Leo would protect him. At trial, Jim altered his account again, testifying that Leo had withheld the money until Jim agreed to burn Mary's body in the factory furnace. Jim was later represented by attorney William Manning Smith, hired by the Atlanta Georgian for $40. Smith was known for defending Black clients and had successfully argued difficult cases in Georgia courts. Although Smith believed Jim's final version was truthful, he became uneasy with the extensive jailhouse interviews Jim gave to reporters. Concerned about media influence and pressure, Smith arranged for Jim to be moved to another jail and eventually cut ties with the newspaper. Jim's testimony remained deeply controversial. He had a prior criminal record, and multiple aspects of his story conflicted with physical evidence and with witnessed statements. He admitted to moving Mary's body, claiming coercion, and said he used the elevator, but also admitted to defecating in the elevator shaft around the same time.
Like in his pants, or
No, he
whipped him down
he
and-
dropped trout and squatted and pooped underneath the elevator in the elevator shaft.
Fuck.
But apparently there's a restroom down there because Newt used the restroom down there.
Why? Like, does he have a reason?
He's a janitor. He's the one that's going to have to fucking
Right,
clean it up.
I don't understand.
Like, it makes no sense. Makes no sense.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
Investigators noted that the waste found there had not been crushed by the elevator, suggesting the elevator had not been used as Jim described. This supported alternative theories about how the body was moved. Additional statements from a woman Jim was romantically involved with, factory employees, medical experts, and later evidence uncovered decades afterward raised further questions about his credibility. It was also later suggested that the elevator may not have been operating to the basement that day, a point referenced years later by Georgia Governor John Slatton. Ultimately, on February 24th, 1914, Jim Conley was sentenced to 1 year in jail as an accessory after the fact in the murder of Mary Phagan. So he's changed his story so many times. He wrote the fucking notes, and he's getting a year as accessory.
Like, how are you even? Okay, first off, I get you look like an accessory and you're getting your own, but you're only getting a year, and they should be looking at him as prime.
Yeah. I'm going to backtrack here a little here now. Back to when this just happened, news of Mary Phagan's murder exploded across Atlanta almost immediately. The Atlanta Constitution was the first paper to report the story, quickly followed by the Atlanta Journal and the Atlanta Georgian, each competing fiercely for readers. On the very day the crime was announced, newspapers rushed out dozens of extra editions. In one of the most disturbing examples of sensationalism, the Atlanta Georgian published a manipulated morgue photograph, altering the image by attaching Mary's head to the body of another child.
Why?
That's so fucked up. So not only are you, showing her face, trying to claim that this is her dead body in the morgue, but you're also exploiting this poor child that actually, died.
Both of the children.
Both of them. Yeah. Like, that's so fucked up just to sell papers. Collectively, the papers offered $1,800 in reward money for information leading to the arrest of the killer. As coverage intensified, city leaders grew uneasy. Atlanta's mayor publicly criticized police for releasing too much information to the press, which, yeah, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're working a murder case, you got to hold stuff back so you can catch the killer when they, know certain little things.
Right.
That
Because if you
nobody
tell the
should know
public, they're going to know. So then you can't decipher where
where they got that information from.
yeah, the
It's
killer
stupid.
from the innocent. Like, yeah, you keep things secret because then if I came to you and was like, Ange, tell me what you know about the elevator,
There was shit underneath it.
and that wasn't disclosed. So
Yep.
how do you know?
I smelt it. The governor, alarmed by the increasingly emotional public response following the arrests, ordered 10 militia units to stand ready in case mobs attempted to attack the prisoners. Despite these concerns, newspaper coverage of the case continued relentlessly throughout the investigation, the trial, and the appeals that followed. Much of that reporting blurred the line between fact and fiction. Verified evidence appeared alongside rumors, speculation, and outright distortion. Historians have noted that this brand of yellow journalism fueled panic, outrage, and fear, gripping not just the city of Atlanta, but the entire state within days. So they just created chaos with all this misinformation printed as fact.
Right.
Public reaction varied sharply along social and cultural lines. Many working class Atlantans viewed the factory superintendent as a predator who had violated a child, while members of the German Jewish community saw him as a respectable, professional, and devoted husband. With contradictory information flooding the papers daily, many ordinary citizens struggled to sort truth from exaggeration or to withhold judgment as the case unfolded. As public opinion hardened, much of the pressure shifted toward law enforcement and the prosecution, who were expected to deliver justice swiftly, but wasn't doing so. Prosecutor Hugh Dorsey was already under scrutiny, having recently lost 2 major murder trials. One state newspaper warned that another loss, especially in a case this emotionally charged, would very well end his career. So now he's got his job on the line, so he needs it to go a certain way. On May 23rd, 1913, a grand jury was convened to consider whether charges should be brought against Leo Frank for the murder of Mary Phagan. Prosecutor Hugh Dorsey presented a limited portion of the evidence, explaining to jurors that further details would be introduced at trial. The following day, May 24th, the grand jury returned an indictment. At the same time, Leo's defense team began publicly suggesting that Jim Conley was responsible for the crime and urged authorities to pursue charges against him instead. A separate grand jury was later called together on July 21st. Convened by its foreman without a format request, acting on Dorsey's recommendation, that jury ultimately chose not to indict Jim Conley, even with all that against him. Writing the letters, washing the rust stain out of his shirts, admitting that he helped move the body.
Right.
Like,
hello.
Leo Frank's trial opened on July 28th. That's my wedding anniversary.
You had to think about that for a minute.
Well, for some reason, I think it was July 27th. I was like, no, we got married in 2007.
Oh.
It was July 28th. Brain fart. At the Fulton County Superior Court, housed in Atlanta's Old City Hall, the presiding judge, Leonard S. Rowan, had been on the Georgia bench for more than a decade by that point. The prosecution was led by Dorsey and included William Smith, who served both as Jim Conley's attorney and as a jury consultant for the state. Leo was defended by a large legal team, 8 attorneys in total, headed by Luther Rosser, Reuben Arnold, and Herbert Haas, and supported by specialists focused on jury selection. So he had a really good team behind him because he had all that, upper middle class money.
He could afford it.
Yeah, he could afford it. Didn't help him, but he could afford it. Inside the courtroom, spectators filled every available seat. Outside, crowds gathered daily, pressing against the windows in an effort to follow the proceedings. In later appeals, Leo's defense would argue that the sheer size and intensity of these crowds created an atmosphere of intimidation, potentially influencing both witnesses and jurors as the trial unfolded. As both sides prepared for trial, they were keenly aware of the realities of race and power in the early 20th century Georgia. The case hinged largely on the testimony of a Black man against a white defendant, presented before an all white jury, a fact that deeply influenced courtroom strategy. Historian Jeffrey Melnick later noted that the defense attempted to portray Jim Connolly as a dangerous and unpredictable figure, while the prosecution framed him as a familiar, non threatening stereotype, someone the jury would see as incapable of inventing a complex lie on his own. So saying he's too dumb to come up with
Right.
something like this.
Yeah.
Both are very insulting.
Right.
Prosecutor Hugh Dorsey's approach leaned heavily on prevailing racial prejudices of the era, arguing that Jim's account of events immediately after the murder was truthful and that he had acted under Leo's direction. The state maintained that Leo committed the murder and then instructed Jim to write the notes in an effort to shift blame onto the night watchman, Newt Lee. Or the night witch, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
To reinforce their claim that the killing occurred on the second floor of the factory near Leo Frank's office, prosecutors called witnesses who testified about alleged blood stains and strands of hair found on the lathe in the machine room. The defense firmly rejected this theory, insisting the murder did not take place upstairs. Both sides disputed the meaning and reliability of the physical evidence, including materials found around Mary's neck, which the defense pointed out were common throughout the factory. The basement scene became another major point of contention. Prosecutors argued that it supported Jim's account that the body was transported there by elevator. The defense countered that marks on the basement floor suggested Jim carried the body down a ladder and dragged it across the ground instead. Defense attorneys maintained that Jim alone committed the murder, with Newt Lee helping him with writing the notes. To bolster Leo Frank's alibi, the defense presented numerous witnesses whose testimony aimed to show that his movements that day left him insufficient time to commit the crime. The defense also emphasized the missing purse, arguing it supported the theory that the murder occurred during a robbery. Jim testified that he saw Leo place the purse inside the office safe, though he admitted he had never seen the purse before trial. So again, he's changing his story.
Yeah. And I could see that it was a robbery because she was going to get her check.
Yeah, but
She went to go get her check. Did
Yeah,
they
but-
say she left? She was on her way to the fair, the
parade.
So did she just never make it out of the building?
No, she never made it out of the building. But what are they going to do with her check?
That's 1912. I'm sure they could just go cash it.
You could cash somebody else's check.
I don't know. I don't know what happened back then.
And we have this Black man show up
With this,
with
this white female.
Mary Phagan check. You
I don't know
look-
because,
You don't look like a Mary.
back then, though, women were oppressed. So,
Yeah, that's true. Maybe the men did all the banking.
yeah, maybe the women had to sign their checks over, so they didn't think anything to check.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Another witness stated that when the safe was opened days later, it was empty. Even Mary's torn pay envelope became a point of debate, with both sides offering competing interpretations of its significance. The prosecution placed heavy emphasis on allegations about Frank's sexual conduct. They claim that, with Jim Conley's help, Leo routinely used his office as a place to meet women for sexual encounters. According to Jim's testimony, on the day of the murder, he saw Mary Phagan go upstairs. Shortly afterward, he said he heard a scream. Jim then testified that he later fell asleep, and when he woke, Leo summoned him to the office and showed him Mary's body, admitting that he had injured her. So you're saying you saw her, you heard her scream, and then you just fell asleep?
Right. So
At
you
work?
weren't going to go check on that, and you were working.
Yeah, you just fell
And
asleep
aren't
at
you
work?
the night watchman or this
No,
janitor?
no, this is the janitor.
Okay, I can't.
Keep on track.
Yeah, I can't remember which one's which. So
Nude,
this is the
nude is a night. Nude
Nude.
night.
new night.
Nude night. Jim janitor.
Okay, yeah, I can remember that.
But still, that makes no sense. Like you just heard somebody scream, and you're like, oh, well, I need a nap now.
Right, like I'm not even.
I'm
gonna
on
check
my
that.
lunch, man. Jim repeated earlier claims from his affidavits, stating that he and Leo transported Mary's body to the basement using the elevator. He said they then returned upstairs, where Leo dictated the handwritten notes meant to shift suspicion onto the night watchman, Newt Lee. So it sounds like Jim had it out for Newt.
But Jim pooped in that basement,
Yeah.
and they took the elevator to the basement. So how
Yeah.
was the poop not smashed?
That was one of their things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like now they're
Yeah.
saying that. Now he's saying that he took it to the basement.
Yeah, he's been saying the whole time he took it to the basement, and the Leo's defense team was like, but how? The poop's not smeared.
Yeah.
Over the course of 3 days, the defense cross-examined Jim for a total of 16 hours, attempting to expose inconsistencies in his account. Despite the lengthy questioning, Jim's core narrative remained intact. The defense then asked the court to remove Jim's testimony about the alleged meetings in Leo's office. Judge Leonard Rowan acknowledged that the objections might have succeeded had they been raised earlier, but ruled that the jury could not realistically disregard what they had heard at that point and allowed the testimony to remain. To support the claim that Frank expected Mary to come to his office that day, the prosecution called Helen Ferguson, a factory employee who had been the one to notify Mary's parents of her death. Helen testified that she attempted to collect Mary's pay on Friday, but was told that Mary would need to come in herself. However, both the clerk at the pay window and another worker standing behind Helen contradicted this account, stating that Leo did not distribute pay that day, which was consistent with his usual routine. So he's not the one that was passing out checks.
So she had another reason of going there.
No, she was there to get her check. They're just saying she would have no reason to go see Leo because he wasn't the one handing out the checks.
Oh, okay.
In response, the defense presented several factory girls who testified that they had never observed Leo behaving inappropriately towards female workers and described him as respectful and professional. During rebuttal, prosecutor Hugh Dorsey countered by calling a series of former employees to stand, repeatedly asking whether they knew Leo's reputation for immoral behavior. Many of these witnesses responded negatively, characterizing his reputation as poor. From the beginning, the prosecution understood that timing would be central to the case. At trial, both sides presented witnesses to support competing timeline for the hours surrounding Mary Phagan's death. Everything hinged on when she was killed, relying on expert testimony about stomach contents. The prosecution argued that Mary died somewhere between 12 o'clock and 12:15. So a 15-minute window there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the state's witnesses, Montine Stover, testified that she went to Leo Frank's office to collect her paycheck and waited there from approximately 12:05 to 12:10, but did not see Frank inside. Prosecutors argued this was because Leo was at the moment likely killing Mary in the metal room. This contra- this conflicted with Leo's early statements to police, in which he said he had remained in his office between noon and 12:30. However, other testimony suggested that Mary exited the streetcar between 12:07 and 12:10. From there, it would have taken several minutes to walk to the factory. This raised the possibility that Montine Stover may have arrived before Mary did, weakening the prosecution's interpretation of her testimony. Another key witness was Lemmy Quinn, the foreman of the metal room, who testified that he briefly spoke with Leo Frank in his office at 12:20 p.m. Leo had not mentioned Lemmy in his earliest interviews with police, though he later stated, first at the coroner's inquest and then at trial, that Lemmy arrived shortly after Mary left his office. Prosecutors seized on these shifting details, calling Lemmy's testimony unreliable and emphasizing that Leo had not originally included Lemmy in his account. The defense countered with testimony from experts from Jim Conley himself, who stated that it would have taken at least 30 minutes to kill Mary, move her body to the basement, return upstairs, and write the notes. According to the defense reconstruction, Leo's whereabouts were accounted for from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., with only a narrow window about 18 minutes unaccounted for. So how could he have killed her?
Right. I'm no expert, but math's not math.
Yeah. Additional defense testimony came from Hattie Hall, a stenographer who said Leo had specifically asked her to come in on that Saturday and that she observed him working in his office from around 11 o'clock until nearly noon. Later that afternoon, attention shifted to Leo's behavior when Newt Lee, the night watchman, arrived shortly before 4 p.m. Newt testified that Leo appeared unusually agitated and hurried out of his office, telling Newt that he was not finished with his work and asking him to return at 6 o'clock instead. When Newt asked if he could rest in the building until then, Leo insisted that he leave and encouraged him to go into town before coming back. So that seems a little suspicious if
Yeah.
that's true.
Like, why would he want him to leave?
Yeah. Like, what is he gonna? He's not bothering you. You're in your office. So,
Yeah.
what would it
And
matter?
he's the night watchman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the night watchman. So he needs to be there. That's his job.
Yeah. When Newt returned at 6 o'clock, former employee James Gant was also present. Newt Lee told police that James Gant, who had previously been fired after money was missing from the factory, asked to retrieve shoes he had left behind. Leo allowed James to enter the building, though Newt said Leo seemed disturbed by his appearance. Leo left the factory soon afterward, arriving home around 6:25 p.m. and later that evening called Newt to ask whether everything had gone smoothly with James's visit. During the trial, the prosecution accused Leo's legal team of attempting bribery and witness tampering, while the defense argued that jurors had been intimidated by the huge crowds inside and outside the courtroom. Their motion for a mistrial was denied, though. Concerned for safety in case of an acquittal, Leo and his attorneys agreed not to be present when the verdict was read. On August 25th, 1913, after less than 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned an unanimous guilty verdict. The
Okay.
next day, Judge Leonard Rowan sentenced Leo Frank to death by hanging, setting the execution for October 10th. The defense immediately protested, claiming that public opinion had prejudiced the jury, a line of argument that would continue through appeals. Under Georgia law, appeals could only challenge legal errors, not re examine evidence. Leo's team raised 115 procedural issues, including alleged jury bias, intimidation, and the admissibility of Jim Conley's testimony about Leo's supposed sexual behavior. Judge Rowan denied their motion, noting that while he personally had doubts about Leo's guilt, the jury's verdict was binding. So he's like,
Allowed an appeal. That's not the word I wanted to
yeah,
use, but he was, whatever word is also means allowed.
yeah.
Yeah, he's allowed an appeal. So why is the verdict stuck?
Yeah. The defense then appealed to the Georgia Supreme Court, citing Rowan's reservations and arguing for a new trial. On February 17th, 1914, the court denied the appeal in a 4-2 decision. The majority upheld Jim's testimony and dismissed claims of jury prejudice. While the dismissal argued that evidence of Leo's prior alleged misconduct had unfairly influenced the jurors. Leo's team continued to pursue extraordinary state appeals, presenting new affidavits and challenging aspects of the evidence, such as the murder notes and Jim's letters to a woman named Annie Carter. A single justice, Ben Hill, reviewed the claims, but the court denied a new trial on April 23rd, 1914, ruling that alleged recantations could only be considered if perjury charges were proven. The full court upheld this decision on November 14th, 1914, rejecting claims that Leo's absence at the verdict reading violated due process. The defense then took the case to the federal courts, arguing that Leo had been denied due process because of the threatening crowds.
I was going to say, did
Yeah,
they even let him go? Like, the absence at the verdict. Like,
yeah, he wasn't
he
at the
wasn't
verdict.
allowed to be there. I mean, they didn't let him.
Well, he could have been there, but he and his attorneys thought it would be safer for him not to be there in case he did get a guilty verdict, because they thought the crowds would
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So
mad.
how is that?
His fault.
Yeah,
Well, it's not his fault,
it is, but it's not.
but they're trying to get an appeal saying he wasn't allowed due process because he wasn't there, but he couldn't be there because of the crowds.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense.
initially, requests were denied by Justices Lamar and Holmes, but the U.S. Supreme Court eventually heard the case, Frank versus Mangum. On April 19th, 1915, the court denied his appeal again in a 7-2 decision. Justice Holmes stated, and this is a quote, "It is our duty to declare lynch law as little valid when practiced by a regularly drawn jury as which administered by one elected by a mob intent on death." On April 22nd, 1915, a request to commute Leo's death sentence was submitted to Georgia's 3-member prison commission. On June 9th, the commission rejected the request by a 2-1 vote. The lone dissenter argued that it was unjust to execute a man based primarily on the testimony of an accomplice when the surrounding facts appeared to point to that accomplice's guilt.
I agree with that.
The case then moved to Governor John Slatton. John had been elected governor in 1912, and his term was set to expire just 4 days after Leo's scheduled execution. 2 years earlier, before Mary's murder, John had agreed to merge his law firm with that of Luther Rosser, who later became Leo's lead defense attorney. Though John played no role in the original trial, after the commutation, political firebrand Tom Watson attacked John relentlessly, often framing his partnership with Luther as a conflict of interest. John opened formal hearings on June 12th, He heard arguments and reviewed newly presented evidence from both sides, personally visited the crime scene, and examined more than 10,000 pages of records. Among the documents was a letter from Judge Leonard Rowan, written shortly before his death, urging John to correct what he believed had been a grave mistake. During this period, John received more than 1,000 death threats. Former Governor Joseph Brown warned him bluntly that overturning the verdict would, in effect, destroy trial by jury in Georgia. According to historian C. Van Woodward, Tom Watson even sent a intermediary to John, promising political support and the and future power if Leo were allowed to hang. So they're trying to bribe him
Okay.
into just,
Yeah.
let it be, let it go.
Just sweep it under the rug and call it good.
John ultimately issued a 29-page report. At first, he criticized outside commentators, particularly northern newspapers, who he felt misunderstood the evidence. He defended the trial court's authority and summarized the prosecution's case in a way he believed any reasonable person could accept. He also noted that Jim Conley's detailed account seemed difficult to fabricate. But John then pivoted, posing a central question. Was Jim telling the truth? Historian Leonard Dinnerstein later observed that John's doubts stemmed largely from inconsistencies in Jim's story. Two issues stood out above all others: how Mary's body was moved and the origin of the murder notes. Early investigators had found human waste undisturbed in the elevator shaft. Waste Jim claimed he left there before the murder. When the elevator was used days later, the material was crushed, leading John to conclude the elevator had not been used immediately after the crime, as Jim had claimed. During the hearing, prosecutor Hugh Dorsey argued the elevator could stop short of the basement floor. However, Jim himself had testified that the elevator always stopped when it hit bottom. John conducted his own tests at the factory and determined that the elevator consistently reached the basement floor. He concluded that if the elevator had not been used to move the body, Jim's version of events could not be trusted. Handwriting expert Albert Osborne re-examined the notes and observed that they were written in the third person, an odd choice if they were meant to represent Mary's final words. Osborne argued this was the kind of mistake Jim, a factory sweeper, might make, but not Leo, a college-educated manager. Like, especially coming from, isn't,
He was the one that went to Cornell.
yeah, and that's an Ivy League, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not going to make that mistake.
No.
William Smith, Jim's former attorney, came to believe Jim was the true killer and produced an extensive analysis comparing the notes to Jim's known writings. John noted repeated word choices, grammatical patterns, and phrasing across the notes. Jim's letters to Annie Maud Carter, which was a girl he was in a relationship with,
Okay.
and his courtroom testimony. These similarities convinced John that Jim authored the notes himself. John also accepted evidence suggesting the notes were written in the basement, not Leo's office. The order pads used were dated and had been stored exclusively in the basement, according to affidavits from former employees. This information had never been presented to the jury. John identified additional factors that raised reasonable doubt. He agreed with the defense that Jim's claims about sexual behavior were likely coached, including details tied to anti-Semitic stereotypes. John accepted the defense's timeline, including that Montine Stover likely arrived before Mary, making it improbable that the murder occurred while Montaigne was present. He also found it troubling that despite a severe head wound, no blood was found on the machinery, elevator, or stairway, while dirt and sawdust in Mary's nose and mouth indicated that she had been in the basement while still alive or immediately after death. John also rejected Jim's claim that Leo had been expecting Mary for a secret meeting, stating that such an assertion was unsupported by evidence and unjustly smeared Mary's character. So he was trying to say that Mary went up there to have sexual relations
Yeah.
with Leo, a 13-year-old girl. On June 21st, 1915, John commuted Leo's sentence from death to life imprisonment. He concluded that significant evidence unavailable at trial, including the Carter letters, testimony regarding the basement writing of the notes, and doubts about where the murder occurred, created sufficient doubt to justify commutation. John acknowledged the near impossibility of overturning a verdict through extraordinary motions and acted within his executive authority. The decision sparked immediate outrage. Atlanta's mayor stated that most Georgians believed Leo was guilty and viewed the commutation as a mistake. In response, John invited reporters to his home and stated plainly that allowing Leo to be executed would have weighed on his conscience for the rest of his life. He openly said he believed Jim was the real killer and privately told friends he would have issued a full pardon if he thought Leo could not eventually prove his innocence. Public fury boiled over. A mob threatened John at his home and was dispersed only by the National Guard and deputized supporters. Once wildly popular, John and his wife left Georgia shortly afterward. For Leo's safety, prison officials secretly transferred him overnight to Milledgeville State Penitentiary, heavily fortified and far from Marietta. Despite the precautions, on July 17th, the New York Times reported that fellow inmate William Crean attempted to murder Leo by slashing his throat. Crean later claimed he acted to protect the prison from mob violence and believed he would be pardoned for killing Leo.
I don't agree with that.
I mean,
I mean,
he might have been because everybody was out to get Leo,
yeah,
even though,
even though things are starting to point not to him,
yeah,
like,
things never really pointed to him. They
right.
just, from the beginning, decided who they were going to blame this on. The decision to commute Leo's sentence on June 21st, 1915, triggered an explosive response from Tom Watson. In his publications, The Jeffersonian and Watson's Magazine, Tom openly encouraged mob violence, praising lynching as a sign that justice still lived among the people. His words inflamed public anger and helped legitimize vigilantism. Vigilantism. I think that's how you would say it.
Yeah. Vigilantism.
Because you're a vigilante.
Yeah.
Mm.
I would say vigilantism. I wouldn't say that.
Vigilantism. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
In the eyes of many. Not long after, a group of prominent local men quietly organized themselves into what they called the Vigilance Committee. Their goal was explicit: to remove Leo from prison and kill him. The group was made up of 28 men, each assigned a specific role. An electrician was responsible for cutting communication lines. Mechanics were tasked with keeping vehicles running. Others included a locksmith, a telephone technician, a medical professional, a man designated to carry out the hanging, and even a lay preacher. Though many of the leaders were well known in their community, their identities were not publicly revealed until decades later, when a local librarian published a list compiled from research by Mary Phagan's great niece, Mary Phagan King. Those named included former Georgia Governor Joseph Brown, Eugene Clay, a former mayor of Marietta, who later became president of the Georgia Senate, E.P. Dobbs, Marietta's sitting mayor at the time, Moultrie Sessions, a lawyer and banker who had attended Governor John Slatton's clemency hearing, along with several current and former Cobb County sheriffs and other influential citizens. On the afternoon of August 16th, 8 cars left Marietta separately, heading towards Milledgeville to avoid suspicion. The group reached the prison around 10 o'clock p.m. The electrician cut the telephone lines, the prison vehicles were disabled, the warden was restrained, and Leo was taken from his cell. The convoy then began a roughly 175-mile journey back through rural back roads, a trip that lasted nearly 7 hours.
Jesus.
Along the way, lookouts in small towns alerted the next stop by telephone as soon as the cars passed by. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That there's like
that many people involved.
Yeah.
And like that it's reached that many people too
Yeah.
in different counties and things like that.
A site had already been prepared at Frey's Gin, just outside Marietta, complete with a rope and platform supplied by former Sheriff William Frey. So we got like police officers, we got
Mayors,
it is so
prestigious
high up that is participating in this.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds really familiar. According to the New York Times, Leo was bound at the wrists and ankles and hanged from the tree shortly after 7 a.m., positioned so his body faced the direction of Mary's former home. News of the lynching drew crowds almost immediately. The Atlanta Journal reported that men, women, and children arrived on foot, horseback, or by car. Some people cut pieces from Leo's clothing as souvenirs. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Who would?
The New York Times described one onlooker, Robert Howell, related to Clark Howell, editor of the Atlanta Constitution, who screamed for the body to be mutilated and burned.
What the fuck?
Whipping the crowd into further frenzy. Judge Newt Morris, it's a different Newt.
I was going to say another Newt.
Attempted to regain control and call for a vote on whether Leo's body should be returned intact to his family. Only Howell objected. When the body was cut down, Howell began stomping on Leo's face and chest.
God, the dude's already fucking dead.
Yeah, what more are you going to do to him? This poor innocent man. Judge Morris quickly intervened, placing the body in a basket and removing it from Marietta with the help of his driver, John Wood. In Atlanta, thousands gathered outside the undertaker's parlor, demanding to see the body. When the crowd began breaking windows, officials allowed people to pass through. This is disgusting.
Yes.
An estimated 15,000 individuals viewed Leo's remains. How degrading, how humiliating.
So much for resting in peace.
Yeah, like it wasn't enough that you kidnapped him, lynched him,
mutilated him.
Now you got to gawk at his corpse. It's just disgusting. Police guarded the casket, fearing further violence. Leo's body was eventually transported by train from Atlanta to New York, and buried on August 20th, 1915, at Mount Carmel Cemetery in Queens. His wife, Lucille, would not be buried beside him. She was later cremated and laid to rest near her parents. On August 19th, 1915, the New York Times reported that many residents of Cobb County believed the lynching had corrected what they viewed as a failure of justice. In their eyes, the mob had enforced the law after Governor John Slatton, they claimed, unjustly overturned it. In response to the national outrage, a Cobb County grand jury was convened to investigate the lynching. Although the men involved were widely known within the community, no one was formally identified. Some reports even suggested that individuals connected to the lynching may have sat on the very grand jury tasked with examining the crime, which I don't doubt since it was fucking mayors,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Higher
sheriffs.
ups. Like you got all those people, of course.
And even if they weren't, I'm sure they're friends, they got connections, they can make it happen.
Yep.
Nat Harris, who had just taken office as Georgia's new governor, publicly vowed to hold those responsible accountable and offered a $1,500 reward for information leading to arrests. Despite this, journalist Charles Willis Thompson of the New York Times observed that residents of Marietta were unwilling to cooperate, writing that they would die rather than reveal.
Okay, not only is it beneficial for them to talk for Leo's sake, but for this poor girl's sake,
Yeah, but they're
getting the
convinced.
truth out there.
They're convinced that it was Leo, even though all the evidence is pointing to Jim.
Right, but it says they would rather die than reveal what they knew.
Than to reveal who helped with the
Oh,
lynching.
okay.
The Macon Telegraph echoed the sentiment, remarking that while the lynchers could likely be identified, it was doubtful they ever would be. Photographs of the lynching were taken and quickly turned into souvenirs.
Oh my God.
Postcards showing the scene were openly sold in local shops for 25 cents a piece, along with pieces of the rope, fragments of Leo's nightshirt, and branches from the tree used in the hanging.
This is sick.
It's very sick. It's so fucked up. Author Elaine Marie Alphen later noted that demand was so high the police announced vendors would need a city license to continue selling the items. In several of the images, members of the crowd posed in front of Leo's body, one even holding a portable camera.
Oh my God.
Historian Amy Louise Wood has written that local newspapers avoided printing the photographs not out of sensitivity, but because the images clearly showed identifiable participants at a time when the lynching was being condemned nationwide. So they have proof of who was there.
But they're not willing to give it up.
They have freaking pictures showing. The Columbia State newspaper, which opposed the lynching, mocked the silence, writing that the heroic Marietta lynchers were apparently too modest to share their photographs. Wood also notes that a newsreel featuring footage from the event circulated, though it focused on the gathered crowds rather than Leo's body. Censorship boards blocked its exhibition in many parts of the country, but there is no evidence it was stopped from being shown in Atlanta. Leo's case had already been cited years earlier by Adolf Krauss when he announced the formation of the Anti-Defamation League in 1913. After the lynching, the impact of Georgia's Jewish population was profound. Nearly half of the state's roughly 3,000 Jewish residents left Georgia altogether.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I would too. Author Steve Oney later explained that Many who remained responded by distancing themselves from visible expressions of Jewish identity, becoming more assimilated, assimilated, and
Assimilated.
assimilated, assimilated, and avoiding customs that would might draw attention. Weddings were altered, traditions minimized, and cultural visibility deliberately reduced. What it's just so shocking to me. Like, this is 1930, so obviously, um, like, segregation and hate against Black people was very,
Mhm.
rampant, especially in the South.
Right.
I'm surprised that they hate Jewish people more. I didn't realize there was such. I mean, in America, that there was such a hatred for Jewish people. I know in Germany,
I
it goes so far that they start World War II
right.
soon after this. But
But ultimately,
I didn't
Jewish
realize,
people are white, most
yeah,
of them.
yeah. So I'm surprised that they
Yeah,
hated the Jewish white man more than they hated the Black man.
you're right. That's crazy. Like, not crazy, but crazy.
Yeah, it's surprising to me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is the South,
I
and it
yeah,
is during
I thought there was more
slavery times,
racism
and
against them than
yeah,
prejudice against.
yeah.
And I didn't realize that in America there was a prejudice against Jewish people.
I mean, I kinda knew. I didn't know it was to this extent.
I didn't know in America. Knew over in Germany, because of Hitler and everything,
Yeah,
but I didn't realize we had that same ideal here.
yeah,
I mean, I know there's a lot of stereotypes around Jewish, that they're
right.
shisty and they like to hold on to their money and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. They make good accountants,
Yeah,
but I didn't think that it went so far as to hatred.
yeah, it's crazy to, like,
To hate
think about
anybody
this.
just for their religious practices or for the color of their skin, that's not why you hate people.
I hate people because 'cause they're assholes.
Yeah, I hate people because of their morals.
Yeah, like,
If your morals
I
don't
don't care
align,
what you look like. If your morals are
fucked up.
shit,
Yeah, then
or you're just a
shit
shitty person,
person.
I don't like you.
Yeah,
Plain and simple.
but I don't hate any certain group of anybody.
No, except for pedophiles.
Well, yeah, but that again, that's different.
Yeah,
That's different.
we have to put that in
That's not basing on color of
there.
someone's
Right.
skin or their,
Ethnicity or anything like that.
yeah, their cultural background. For many American Jews, Leo came to symbolize an American version of Alfred Dreyfus, a man destroyed by prejudice, hysteria, and institutional failure. 2 weeks after the lynching, in the September 2nd, 1915 issue of the Jeffersonian, Tom Watson doubled down on his rhetoric, declaring, "The voice of the people is the voice of God."
Oh my god.
His sensational coverage of the case dramatically expanded his readership. When Tom began publishing attacks against Leo in 1914, by the magazine's circulation stood at about 25,000. By September 1915, it had more than tripled to 87,000. And we can't even get 10 listeners. The lynching of Leo Frank and the reaction that followed may also have played a role in the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. The organization, infamous for its campaign of racial and anti Semitic violence, was revived in 1915, just 1 month after Leo's death, and shortly after the release of The Birth of a Nation, a film that glorified the original Klan. I didn't realize that they had gone away. I didn't realize that they existed before
Who
the Ku Klux Klan.
they went away?
Well, it says that his death and the reaction that followed may also have played a role in the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. The organization infamous for its campaign of racial and anti-Semitic violence was revived in 1915, just 1 month after Leo's death and shortly after the release of The Birth of a Nation, a film that glorified the original Klan.
So they existed before and then they
Yes.
came back?
Yeah. I didn't know that they existed before, and
I didn't either.
I didn't know that they had to come back.
I knew they existed in that era. I didn't know that they existed before that.
Yeah. The prevailing judgment among scholars is that Leo was wrongfully convicted. The Atlanta Constitution reported in the 1940s that it had reopened an examination of the case. A journalist who later visited Leo's widow, Lucille, who never remarried, recalled that she began to cry when the subject of the case was raised. I'm sure 'cause that was traumatic.
Oh, yeah.
Her husband got wrongfully
Murder.
convicted,
Yeah.
got kidnapped by a lynch mob and hanged, and then his corpse was, defiled. His corpse gawked at by 15,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and his name just smeared through the country.
Yep.
I would cry too. Jeffrey Melnick wrote that there is near unanimity among researchers that Leo did not murder Mary Phagan. Numerous historians and journalists have since characterized the trial as a profound injustice, a miscarriage of justice, and a distortion of justice. Others have stated that there is little doubt that Leo was innocent, that he was unjustly and wrongly convicted of murder, that he was falsely convicted, and that the case against him was deeply unreliable. Historian C. Van Woodward, along with many other scholars, concluded that Jim Conley was the true perpetrator and that the evidence implicating him was far stronger than anything presented against Leo, which it was.
Mm-hmm.
Critics of the verdict have identified multiple flaws in the prosecution and trial. Newspaper coverage in Atlanta, even before Leo was formally charged, has been widely criticized as inaccurate and prejudicial. Some historians argue that prosecutor Hugh Dorsey, facing public pressure after several unsolved murders, rushed to secure a conviction and prematurely decided that Leo was guilty, a conclusion his political ambitions made difficult to abandon. Later evaluations of the evidence, particularly those conducted by Governor John Slatton and William Smith, the former attorney of Jim Conley, appeared to undermine the case against Leo while strengthening the case against Conley. In the modern era, despite substantial evidence supporting Leo's innocence, the case has become a focal point for neo Nazi and anti Semitic groups. This is due in part to the case's connection to the founding of the Anti Defamation League, as well as its exploitation with anti Semitic conspiracy theories, alleging Jewish control over the media. As a result, a number of white supremacist websites have emerged disputing the scholarly consensus regarding Leo's innocence. On the centennial of the trial, the Anti Defamation League issued a statement condemning what it described as misleading websites created by anti Semites to advance anti Jewish narratives. I'm going to be honest. Cases like this makes me absolutely disgusted with humanity. Not confused, not conflicted, disgusted. Because I genuinely cannot understand how anyone, then or now, could look at this case and say, yes, Leo Frank is the guilty one here. That belief requires ignoring logic, evidence, common sense, and frankly, basic decency. All the evidence points to Jim Conley. Full stop. A man who changed his story again and again, a man whose timelines never lined up, a man who somehow always remembered just enough to save himself. And we're supposed to believe him? The same man who openly shit on the floor of an elevator shaft at work? Who the fuck does that? And we're trusting that guy as the cornerstone of a murder conviction. This doesn't mean Mary Phagan gets lost in the conversation because she doesn't. She was a child. She was brutally murdered. Her family deserved the truth. They deserved justice. What they got instead was a convenient scapegoat in a city eager to move on without actually solving anything. And then there's Lucille Frank, Leo's wife, a woman who watched her husband be dragged through the mud, publicly vilified, convicted on nonsense, kidnapped from prison by a lynch mob, and murdered, not executed by the state, lynched. And as if that wasn't enough, over 15,000 people showed up afterwards, demanding to view his body like it was some kind of spectacle, a final act of dehumanization, degradation, humiliation. That is injustice. That's cruelty. That's cowardice. That's a community choosing hate over truth and calling it righteousness. Again, a lot of that happening today.
Mhm.
Leo Frank didn't just lose his life, his name was destroyed, his family shattered, and his humanity stripped away in front of a cheering crowd. And the fact that people still try to defend this outcome, that's what makes this case so horrifying. Not just the murder, but the willingness of humans to lie to themselves when the truth is uncomfortable. This wasn't justice, it was violence wearing the mask of law, and it should make every single one of us deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And we need to take a look around at the world we're in right now.
They always say history repeats itself.
And it is. So don't just go by what you're being told.
And don't go by what society conforms to. Just because people say, "Oh, he's guilty," like they don't know. And that's the thing that gets me is like they let they let the public and the society,
In the
people
media,
and the media
tell them what they
what
should
they should think.
believe.
Yeah, tell them that he's guilty and he's this and he's that. Like they let them dictate
Yeah.
his innocence and guilty and his
And
life.
and if the law doesn't conform to what you think is the right answer, well, then you become the law and you make your own
Way.
way,
Mhm.
your own. You become the, what is the saying? The jury, judge, and executioner.
Yeah. Yeah. It just it's sad. It's sad that it just reminds me of a movie when she's like, I can't hardly wait when she's upstairs in the bathroom and she's like, "You guys are all sheep." Isn't that
No,
what it is?
I don't remember.
But
Can't
yeah,
hardly wait. Is that with
no,
uh
no, it's not. Can't hardly wait. What is it?
let's say that had what's
It had Freddie Prinze Jr. Oh, she's all that.
she's all that? Yeah. No, you're all sheep. That's from Mean Girls.
No, it's from that movie too. Because
Is
she,
it?
yeah, it's the girl who I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's not from that movie, but it's from another movie too.
I think
Because
it's
I've not really watched Mean Girls.
oh, I'm gonna say
It could be, but
mm,
it's from another movie where she's like, sheep, girl, sheep.
yeah, it's not that. I can picture it, but
Yeah, I can't remember what movie that's from. But anyways, like you don't need to follow what other people say. Like build your own opinion, build your own information. She's holding a pair of scissors or something.
can't hardly wait.
Thing I've ever seen. What is wrong with you people? Oh. Hi. Yeah, she's holding scissors and do it.
Do you know who Preston Myers is? Duh. He always sat right next to you in freshman. But I guess you would remember that. I mean, why would Amanda Beckett pay any attention to a unique spirit like Preston or even a unique spirit like me, for instance? Maybe she's just a little too busy ordering around her little conformist book. Oh, sheep.
But yeah, like don't just follow along just because the next person says it's true. Do your own research and give your own thoughts. Like, you don't have to conform to what other people are saying, even if they are the law, because sometimes there are those corrupt people in the law enforcement and in the law genre, period, that do these types of things on purpose. So don't just because, a judge says it's true,
or
it's true.
somebody in power tells you how to think
Yeah.
or how to
And don't
believe.
let the public influence you as a jury.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because back then they probably didn't have to stay away. They probably could
No,
talk about it,
yeah.
unlike today. But like, they pretty much, the public scared or bullied these people into thinking that he was guilty. And if the jury didn't say he was guilty, that they were going to come after them too. It was like a threat because they wanted them to be what they thought he was.
Yeah.
So
just please open your eyes, open your ears, and open your heart.
Stay vigilant.
We're all people. We're all humans that have to live on this planet together. So let's just love one another instead of all of this hate. It's sickening.
Mm-hmm.
It's sickening. But anyways, that was my doozy of a case for you guys. I told you it was going to be long, and I didn't lie because we're almost at 2 hours here.
What?
Yeah, we're at 1:55, but it'll change for you guys because I edit, but it's still going to be a doozy. So hopefully this made up for our short little one last week.
It was still fun though,
and it'll make up for us being a little less the next couple of weeks because of our surgeries. So we haven't decided yet what we're going to be doing for
we have some ideas,
the
but we
next
haven't decided.
couple weeks, but we'll do something. Congratulations to whoever won the birthday.
Right.
We don't know who yet because this is beforehand.
Thanks for sharing the ones I did so far.
Yeah, the first one, always the first one, Sarah. She's our number one.
Yep. And
Monica.
Yeah, thanks for commenting first. Always the two OGs. I don't know. That's our shout out this week because we don't have anything new.
Yeah.
We don't have any new shout outs.
Yeah.
So start writing in so we can get them.
If you guys have any stories you want us to cover, cases you think that might be interesting or horrific like this one, or anything that might be pertinent to what's going on in the world today, any glitches in the matrix, any
very fucking, sorry, I'm cold and I'm tired. Any
Bigfoot sightings, let us know how big his foot is. You can send those in to our Gmail, which is spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can send them in to our website, www.spine-chillingchatspodcast.com.
On there, you can find our bios, pictures, old episodes.
Our merch store.
Our merch. Buy some merch.
If you didn't win the new spring line t-shirt, the Digging Up Doom and Blooms, which I'm not wearing it. This is one of our shirts. This is our last year anniversary shirt. If you didn't happen to win the shirt, you can go buy yourself one.
Yeah.
They're on the website. Get yourself one. Follow us on Facebook. That's where we do most of our communication. If you're not on our Facebook, you need to be. We also have Instagram and TikTok that we use. If you are just listening to us on one of the many, many podcast platforms, you can also see our smiling faces via video on YouTube and Spotify.
Yes.
So check those out. The videos are worth checking out. I add a lot of extra stuff in there, like pictures, little extra tidbits. I find corrections, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Little stabs at Amanda because I know she doesn't watch them. So I like to put stuff in there.
I just listen and I have to sit down and start watching them. I am guilty of that. I will say that.
Though, the episode, the nanny Dorsey, whatever.
No, Nanny. What is it?
think
I want to
it's
say Dorsey because it sounds the same as
Yeah.
that one. It's not. It's anyway.
Anyways, the one that Monica
Yeah.
put as her favorite for the raffle, it had a picture of Billy in it.
Oh yeah,
I was like, oh, there's Billy.
Billy the donkey. He's mad right now. Did I say that last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still mad.
He's lonely and cold. And
Yes. And then yesterday, or was it? No, it was this morning. I had to go to my pre-op appointment. So we left and Mike didn't feed him before we left.
oh, so he
So
was
then we
pissed.
came back and I was like, hi, Billy. And he's like,
He's gonna eat your face.
he did not bray. He did not move. He just it looked like he was just glaring.
For us non-farm people, what does bray mean?
Oh, when he's,
Oh, when he makes a sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
I say neigh, but it's not. It's called bray.
Oh,
For you non-donkey people, braying is when he starts yelling. I just say yelling. He said he wasn't doing that. He was just staring. He wasn't moving. And I was like, he's really fucking mad. Like, you better go out
he's
there and feed him.
hungry.
So he did. He went out there and fed him, and he was fine. But usually when anybody pulls in the driveway, he is out there just yelling and braying and just like walking up and down the fence because he tries to trick people that if he's yelling, that means he's hungry and people will feed him.
No. I'll
So
give him
he
another
thinks-
apple.
He thinks that if he does that, people will feed him. So when we left this morning, he was braying this morning, but we left. When we came back, he was quiet because he was pissed off because he brayed and nobody came and fed
Fed
him.
him.
And he thinks that every time somebody pulls the driveway, he needs to be fed.
He does.
No, he only gets fed twice a day.
No, he needs snacks.
And he's got hay to chew on all day.
Oh, that's tasty.
Hey, he loves it.
Hey, you love it.
Hey, he loves it. But yeah, so yeah, he was mad this morning. But you guys, Billy, and he's really furry right now because he's got his winter coat.
Oh,
So it's like over his eyes and stuff. He's cute, but he's just such an asshole right now because like he won't let you get close. He runs away.
that's a shame.
He's a teenager at this point. That's what I say. He's got that teenage angst.
Please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things on all the
things.
platforms. Well, we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you come back. And most of all, we hope you keep it spooky. Bye, guys.
Bye.